we're going to start off all the way from Washington with Mark Isaksen. He's with the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And Mark had a chance to present at America 250, and I had a wonderful presentation that I got to see. And I asked him if he would do it for us. So, Mark, take it away from online.
Great. Thank you for that nice introduction. Again, my name is Mark Isaksen. I'm one of the program officers at IMLS, and together our team are always available to answer questions directly from folks. So always feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about what I'm saying today. But mostly, I want to make sure you understand what IMLS is. We are an independent federal grant-making agency and the primary source of funding for the nation's museums and libraries. And our mission is to advance, support, and empower America's museums, libraries, and related organizations through grant making, research, and policy development. What I wanted to focus on today is the work that I do in the Office of Museum Services. We currently have 8 grant programs that are tailored to the needs of the museum field. And all of these programs have a similar application cycle. So these applications open on August 15th. And the deadline for submission is November 15th. So this is a good time to think about these opportunities and perhaps get something ready for this upcoming deadline. And again, there are 8 programs, all open. I'm going to talk about really just 2 of them. And if you go to the next slide sort of gives you an image of the amount. And even though we have 8 programs, they vary in size and scale, right? So last year we awarded a total of about $55 million in awards to these 8 programs, about 293 awards. But as you'll see, the Museums for America program, which is in the big blue square there, is where most of our grant awards applications come from and where most of the awards are made. And then we have our Inspire program, which is targeted for the needs of small museums. And then our other programs, which are also open and available, have more either defined approaches to the kinds of things you can fund or are targeted for specific audiences and parts of the museum community. And if you have questions about those programs, I can talk about them, but the next couple of slides are just going to be about Museums for America and the Inspire program. So who's eligible is a question we often get. And I just want to make sure to be clear about our eligibility for who is eligible to apply. First of all, you have to be located in the United States or its territories or DC and be a unit of state, local, or tribal government or a private nonprofit organization with tax-exempt status. So what that excludes are for-profit businesses or individuals primarily. So mostly it's if you're a unit of state or local government, yes. If you're part of a tribal government, yes. If you're a private nonprofit organization, yes, come our way. The other thing to think about is what is a museum, right? Because what we try to do at our agency is be very broad in our thinking about what a museum is, except for a few clear, distinct elements, which you must have at least one full-time equivalent professional staff person, either paid or unpaid. So indeed, if you're an all-volunteer organization, you can be eligible. So one full-time equivalent is, could be 4 part-time people. But if they're one full-time equivalent, paid or unpaid, that meets that minimum standard. Own or use tangible objects. That's one thing we talk about is, as a museum, do you use objects? Do you exhibit them in a way that the visitors and the public can come to understand and learn from them? And that includes living collections. So arboretums, botanic gardens, nature centers, zoos, all those things are also what we think of as museums. You have to own or operate a facility. So if you're an entirely virtual organization, probably not the best programs to come to at IMLS for funding. But if you have some physical space where you exhibit objects, that could be your path for eligibility. And you have to be open at least 120 days a year. And we count that basically back from the time of the application deadline back in the previous 12 months. And I'll go to the next slide, and you can see that the range of museums that we think about, they're all different types of museums. And if you're not sure if you meet any of the requirements that we just talked about, that's a good opportunity to have a conversation with me or one of the program staff. But next, I want to talk about our museum grant programs and mention we're going to talk about 2 of them here. And in the next slide, which is about our Museums for America program. Again, is our biggest grant program, largest number of applications we get in this program, and pretty much supports anything a museum will do, like exhibits, education programs, professional development, engaging with your community in different kinds of dialogues, doing audience-focused studies, taking care of your collections, doing curation, care, and conservation. All of these types of museum activities are all something that you can request funding for in the Museums for America program. And these should be project-based grants. So they're meant to support an activity that you have a priority to do. Like, for example, if you're trying to prepare for the semi-quincentennial, America 250, and you're like, we need to do something to prepare for that. That's a perfect example of a project-based activity. So you're like, we know this event is coming up. We want to do certain things to be ready for the event. We want to do certain things maybe to build capacity of your organization to support those activities. And at the conclusion of that event, you'll have achieved that objective and achieved those results. In this grant program, we have sort of three large categories of funding under lifelong learning, community engagement, and collection stewardship and access. And these grant requests can range from $5,000 to $250,000 in federal funds. All of these grants in this program require cost share. And that means that for every dollar you request from IMLS, you have to provide additional dollar in cash from a non-federal source. But remember that the cash match, the cost share for us in these grant programs is about all the activities and costs that you're contributing to the project. So, for example, if you have staff contributing to their time and effort to the project, if you have volunteers working on the project, those are things that can be included in the cost share. All those costs that are contributing to the project activities can be counted as cost share. And in this example, I just wanted to put out two examples out of the 100 or so that we awarded each year that relate specifically to a America 250 type of project, right? And in both of these cases, these were institutions that came in to do either like exhibit design, development, and planning. In the case of the National Liberty Museum, they were using what they called a co-curation framework, where they wanted to, as part of creating these exhibits, work in direct engagement with specific parts of their community. And they were going to do something to commemorate the 250th, including a public forum and other activities. And then at Fort Ticonderoga, similarly, they were also looking ahead to the 250th and saying, hey, we're going to have potentially a big influx of visitors, people interested in events around the revolution. So we want to do some work around accessibility for our site, as well as finding ways to support our interpreters and get artifacts and materials visible and available to the public. So those are just two examples of projects that we funded. And again, if you have specific things that you want to do at your location, that's what's important about these grant programs, is it supports something that is a priority for your organization. I just wanted to pivot for a minute to talk about the Inspire grant program. This is another grant program that we offer, very similar to our Museums for America program, with two distinctions. One is that this is designed specifically for small museums, because we know that small museums often have more distinct issues and concerns. And also, the funding amounts are slightly smaller. It also includes, for small projects, up to $25,000, there's no cost share required. So we also know that maybe if you just need to buy new shelving for your collections, and there's not a lot of big cost share involved, it's just like, we need $20,000 to buy new shelving. That's a great example, a very simple, small scale project that could fit in this program. But there are all types of projects that can fit here in the lifelong learning category, under collection stewardship, and institutional capacity, which is a focus area here because we know a lot of times small museums need help getting support for basic things at their institution, like upgrading a website or doing an interpretive plan or something like that. And here are just two examples of projects we funded recently that are specifically about some America 250 related activities. For example, the American Museum of Science and Energy over in Oak Ridge, they were developing a podcast series focused on innovation and invention related to the 250th. And so they wanted support to do that expansion. So a lot of times these grants are expanding an existing thing you're doing so that you can do more of it, to expand the service, to add more capacity, to do something for a new audience, right? And at this historic house museum up in Hadley, Massachusetts, their site is related to people who were around during the Revolution and American independence period. But they wanted to do some research to really better understand folks that were enslaved and in servitude during that period related to this house. And so they wanted to use the grant to do some research to better inform their narratives, their storytelling, and do broader levels of interpretation that would support their work as part of their state level America 250 programming. So what you can think about next is, if you're interested in our grant programs, is you can go to our website for details on those specific programs, Museums for America, or the Inspire program, or some of the other programs. The deadline is November 15th. We have videos available on our website that are for each grant program. And the next slide, you can see just a little screenshot of what we have on our YouTube channel, where you can see there's a whole playlist for all the webinars and things related to our grant programs. If you really want to have a one-on-one conversation with myself or one of the staff in the Office of Museum Services, you can use this QR code which will take you directly to a scheduling tool. And you can schedule a 30-minute session between yourself and program staff. And it's a great opportunity to, if you're not sure where to begin, to just, talk to somebody, and we can help you say, here, what are your ideas? What are you thinking about? And where do you fit best within the different grant programs at IMLS? And the last thing I'll mention is that most of our applicants, particularly in these programs, are doing it for the first time, meaning applying for federal funding for the first time. So we're happy to take questions and help you find pathways of opportunity at IMLS. And with that, I'll leave it to my colleague to pick up the next part of the presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mark.